You're at a friend's backyard barbecue, trying to relax, but your brain has other plans. You notice the host's smile doesn't quite reach your eyes. You see the salad is just starting to wilt under the sun, and that your friend, while nodding along in conversation, has one foot angled towards the exit. It's a constant, overwhelming stream of data. A quiet question surfaces through the noise. Why does my brain see all of this? It's not just observing the world. It's running a full-scale intelligence operation inside your head. This full-time detective agency in your head treats a casual coffee meeting like a high-stakes intelligence briefing. You're analyzing vocal tones, micro-expressions, even the way someone holds their cup. Trying to just relax feels impossible, like asking a hawk to simply ignore the field mouse over there. It's not just a thought, it's a reflex. The sheer exhaustion is real. If that experience feels deeply familiar, I want to state this clearly. You are not broken. You are not just overthinking. There is a specific architecture behind this way of seeing the world, and it is not a flaw. It's a fundamental part of how your brain is wired. Understanding this wiring is the key to moving from feeling overwhelmed to feeling in control. So let's start by looking at what's really going on inside these deeply processing minds. What's happening is a trait psychologists call a greater depth of processing. Think of it this way. Most brains are wired to capture the general gist of a situation, the basic facts. Your brain, however, is wired to capture the high-resolution version. It doesn't just see the surface, it's compelled to analyze the texture. This means you're not just taking in more sensory data from your environment, but you're also processing every single piece of it more thoroughly. You're constantly cross-referencing tones of voice, body language, and the atmosphere of the room, all at once. And while this creates a rich inner world, it's this very intensity that creates the central problem. The real issue, then, isn't the noticing itself. That's just the input. The problem is the constant drain of processing it all, the emotional exhaustion from a mind that never gets to rest. This is the central challenge of having what we'll call the observer brain. In psychology, this is known as sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS. First identified by psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron, it's not a disorder you'd find in any diagnostic manual. Rather, it's a neutral trait, a fundamental difference in the nervous system's architecture, present in about 1 in every 5 people. This isn't just a theory, it's a measurable biological reality. Researchers using fMRI scans have seen this architecture in action. In studies from institutions like Stony Brook University, when individuals with high SPS were shown photos of their loved ones, their brains showed a surge of activity in the insula. This is a deep region tied to empathy, self-awareness, and the intensity of our emotions. It means you aren't just imagining things feel more significant. Your brain is literally processing the world with greater emotional depth. But this heightened activity isn't random. It's part of a much larger system. So, this isn't about having sharper eyes or ears. It's a fundamental difference in how your brain files incoming information. Most brains automatically label sensory data as either important or background noise, but the observer brain gives almost everything a VIP pass. Every subtle shift in tone, every flicker of movement is pulled in and deeply cross-referenced with your past experiences. It's constantly trying to build a complete textured picture, which can feel like trying to listen to everything at once. To put this into perspective, think of most brains as a standard radio, designed to tune into one clear station at a time, filtering out the static. The observer brain, however, is more like a highly sensitive sound mixing board, picking up dozens of channels at once. The hum of the lights, the subtle rhythm of a colleague's breathing, the low frequency of unspoken tension in a room. It all gets its own track. In the right hands, this can be mixed into a beautiful, complex symphony of insight. But without knowing how to work the sliders, it's just overwhelming noise. That external analysis is one thing. But the real challenge for the observer brain often begins when the conversations are over, when you're alone, and that same deep processing power turns its focus inward, onto your own thoughts and feelings. It's 2 a.m, and you're wide awake. Not because of a noise outside, but because your brain is replaying a 10-second conversation from earlier that day. The observer brain applies that same deep processing to social and emotional data. It dissects the slight hesitation in your friend's voice, that fleeting look in your boss's eye. Was it disappointment? Sarcasm? This isn't just memory. It's a forensic analysis of emotional texture. And this intense internal review isn't just you worrying. It's the signature of a specific network in your brain getting to work. That network is called the default mode network, or DMN. Research, like a prominent 2012 review in the journal Psychopathology, has shown that in some people, this network is exceptionally active when the mind is at rest. It's your brain's deep processing architecture turning inward, analyzing social information with profound intensity. This is what creates a rich inner life, but it also powers rumination. And this powerful internal engine is fueled by a constant stream of data. And here is the critical connection. All that high-resolution sensory data you collect from the outside world becomes the raw material for your default mode network to analyze on the inside. Every hesitant glance, every odd word choice is fed into this powerful internal engine. This is precisely why a single, simple comment can trigger a complex web of feelings that lasts for hours. So we need to reframe this entire experience. It isn't a bug in your programming, it's a high-fidelity feature of your operating system. An architecture designed for deep empathy, creativity, and careful thought. But that empathy also carries a heavy price. And acknowledging the architecture doesn't erase the cost. It's the profound exhaustion that comes from living in a world that often feels too loud, too bright, too much. It's the quiet sting you feel when someone tells you to just lighten up or stop being so sensitive. There's a deep compassion owed to anyone navigating a reality not built for this texture of perception. And it's understandable why so many might mistake this constant state of high alert for something else. Let's address the elephant in the room. Isn't this just a fancy word for anxiety? It's a crucial distinction. While sensory processing sensitivity can make you more prone to anxiety when you're overwhelmed, the trait itself is neutral. The key difference is focus. Anxiety is often a state of fear about the future, a constant scanning for what might go wrong. Your observer brain, however, is in a state of deep processing of the present, absorbing the full texture of what is happening right now. It's a fundamental difference in architecture, not a defect. But this very confusion is why the trait is so often misunderstood as a weakness. This is a profound misreading of our survival software. From an evolutionary standpoint, any successful group needs both its bold explorers and its cautious observers. The explorers rush toward opportunity, but the observers notice the subtle threats that could wipe everyone out. One isn't weaker, it's a vital, specialized role. And that deep scanning changes the very texture of what gets stored as a memory. Because you process experiences with such profound depth, your memories aren't just simple records of events. They are sensory tapestries.
You don't just remember what was said. You remember the exact tone it was said in, the quality of the light in the room, and the unspoken emotional current that was present. This deep encoding is why you can recall the feeling of a moment years later with perfect clarity. And this ability to capture the world's hidden texture is the very foundation of your greatest strengths. This deep processing isn't a passive system. It actively generates powerful abilities. That heightened empathy you feel isn't a guess. It's data-driven, built from thousands of micro-observations. Your intuition is pattern recognition running at high speed. Your creativity is the result of connecting subtle details no one else even registered. These aren't side effects of being sensitive. They are the intended output of this unique cognitive architecture. And these outputs have a profound value in the real world. This is why you're the friend who truly hears what's not being said, the colleague who senses a project is drifting off course long before anyone else sees the numbers. Yes, the input can be overwhelming, but the output is often a gift of profound insight. This grants you access to a richness of experience, a texture to reality that many others simply miss. And that realization changes everything. It means the goal isn't to dismantle this part of you. So this isn't about changing the architecture of your brain. It's about learning to be a compassionate architect. And a compassionate architect doesn't tear down the original structure. They design a functional, sustainable space within it. This isn't about avoidance. It's about consciously building buffers in your life that manage the flow of overwhelming sensory information. So, what does a sensory buffer look like in practice? It might mean scheduling 15 minutes of total silence after a long meeting. It could be using noise-canceling headphones on your commute, not for music, but for quiet. Or creating a corner in your home that is intentionally simple and uncluttered. This isn't about avoiding life. It's about managing your cognitive energy budget. You're simply giving your high-processing brain the downtime it needs to function. But taking that space for yourself often invites criticism from a world that doesn't understand this architecture. That criticism often triggers a familiar shame spiral, the internal voice that whispers, "You really are too sensitive," or "too much." That story is fundamentally wrong. So the next time that voice appears, whether from someone else or from inside your own head, I want you to offer a quiet, internal reframe. You don't have to say it out loud. Just think, no, I'm processing this reality on a level you can't perceive. This isn't arrogance. It's an accurate description of your architecture. So grant yourself that compassion. Needing solitude isn't a rejection of the world. It's essential maintenance for a high-performance brain. Your sensitivity was never a liability. It is your very access to a richer, more textured reality, one filled with the nuance and meaning that many people will simply never perceive. And living in that deeper world, the one you experience every day, raises a final important question for all of us. In a world that relentlessly rewards speed over substance, what is the ultimate value of those whose architecture is built for depth? What is the purpose of a mind designed to feel the full texture of a reality that so many others are simply rushing past? After seeing how this deep processing is an architecture, not a flaw, what's one sensory buffer you use that others just don't understand? Answer in the comments below. But this is just one part of your inner world. In the next video, we'll explore the inner monologue that narrates your reality, and why for some, it's completely silent. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss that truth.
Like, if you get it, and share this with someone who needs to see it.